Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the next video. My name is Spirit of Bloom, and today we're going to talk about what makes a strong catch tank. Without further ado, let's get started. I want to preface in this video by noting that this isn't going to be like a mechanical video. This is going to be very raid preparation orientated. There's going to be a lot of information, a lot of note taking, and it'll likely go way over the 2-minute normal video lengths I go with. This is going to be 8 to 10. It's a different kind of video with lots of breakdowns, and if you guys follow along, there's going to be a lot of valuable information. Please give me some feedback on whether this is the kind of video you want to see, or if you want to go back to the shorter mechanical videos. So the 3 criteria that makes a strong catch tank. The first is having high attack stats, the second is high sponging, and the third is having strong and fast charge moves. The first and third criteria are all pretty straightforward. But for sponging, I want to make a note. This is a little more obscure. Why is sponging a good quality to have? Well, for sponging, think about sponging as like a battery. Pokemon with high health essentially are able to store more energy. And Pokemon with low defense can absorb more damage, conduct more energy. So using the battery analogy, we realize that having the best of both of these stats means Pokemon can not only hold on to a lot of energy without fainting, but they can also conduct a lot more energy all at once in a shorter given amount of time. This is what we call sponging. We're going to walk through some examples. I happen to have made a catch tank tier list that walks through all of the meta catch tankers in the game, and we're going to go through some of the different tiered versions and make some notes. The first one is Kyurem Black. Kyurem Black is arguably the gold standard of catch tanks. Very high defense, or very high attack, very high HP, and moderately middle tier defense. In addition, it is paired with one of the strongest charge moves in the game, with a very fast animation duration for consistency and very high damaging output. Not a whole lot needs to be said about Kyurem Black. I think its reputation speaks for itself. The strongest catch tank in the game. I don't even need to make any notes for it. We already know that's just the case. Next one is going to be the Necrozma fusions. The Necrozma fusions are a little bit more peculiar. Just going to walk this through. Their stats are pretty middle of the pack in terms of S tier plus legendaries. Pretty decent attack, decent HP, and a little bit higher defense than we want. What makes up for it are 2 qualities. One is their obscenely broken charge moves. So very powerful charge moves. And middle to above average stats. Moreover, the reason why these 2 are also an S++ tier comes down to 2 unique factors about these Pokemon individually. Necrozma Dawnwings can tank 2.5x damage from both Dark and Ghost. This means moves like Shadow Ball and Dark Pulse are able to deal much more damage, but they are not within the lethal range because of its high defensive stat. This means you're able to maximize lots of energy absorbed to quickly reach Moongeist Beam. That is Necrozma Dawnwings' significant advantage. Everyone perceives this as a weakness. It's actually one of its greatest strengths, if used in the right situations and with the right levels. Necrozma Duskmane is a little more obscure. Necrozma Duskmane typically has a lot of convenient matchups. It is good against Terrakion, which also happens to be weak to Psycho Cut and weak to Sunseal Strike. In addition, Terrakion knows the move Earthquake, which can be boosted inside Sunny Weather for additional sponging capabilities. There's also counters such as Kyurem White, which happens to know Fusion Flare. Kyurem White is weak to Metal Claw and Sunsoul Strike, and if used inside sunny weather, you may need Behemoth Bash to prevent Necrozma Dustman from fainting. However, Fusion Flare is enough to basically turbocharge Necrozma Dustman to Sunseal Strike very quickly. So Necrozma Dustman's advantage is very unique, convenient matchups. And these are two of the reasons why they're placed in S++ tier. Next, we're going to go to Regieleki. Regieleki is a very peculiar example. Not really the greatest stats, pretty low attack, middle of the pack HP, and pretty admirable defense. However, with its low HP, you have to be very careful of how much damage it can tank before it faints. It is almost entirely saved by Thunder Cage doing a whopping 220 damage, and is paired with the highest EPS fast move in the game. Regieleki has very powerful charge move. However, middle of the pack or even low pack capability. Moreover, it is a bit inconsistent because its long animation makes it prone to tanking back-to-back charge moves. And in that situation, Thunder Cage cannot be cast at all, as back-to-back charge moves, if they're fast enough, can KO Regieleki before the Thunder Cage even finishes its animation. Enable TCGS Thunder Cage. The good news is Regieleki's specific matchups are not that bad, mainly tanking Focus Blast and Hyper Beam. And as a result, having to not have to tank super effective charge moves actually kind of saves these catch tank value, because its low defense allows it to sponge more moves from neutral damaging moves like Focus Blast and Hyper Beam. So this is why Regieleki, we're going to give it an S tier, because with the proper mechanics, Regieleki can output a tremendous amount of damage. Next one is Shadow Tyrantrum. Shadow Tyrantrum has a lot of the middle of the pack stats, middle of the pack attack, HP, and defense. It has a pretty solid charge move in Meteor Beam. It's about the same, it's the exact same copy as Fusion Flare, except for Rock type. It has access to a little bit of a better Rock type fast move. Rock Throw gives an additional energy over Smackdown. So this is kind of nice for Shadow Tyrantrum. Shadow Tyrantrum's strength is very strong matchups. Fire, we're talking about Fire Flying, Ice Flying, right? Articuno, Moltres, it can tank Ice type moves from Articuno and survive them, thus giving it a lot of energy, so it's sponging from Articuno's Ice moves. Solar Beam. Maybe not entirely the best from Moltres, but we'll see what we get there when Moltres ever comes out again. Decent charge move. However, middle of the pack stats pull it back. And that's basically Tyrantrum. Very good matchups, decent charge move, however, just doesn't have the kind of same firepower that a lot of these other Go Fest or Tour level Pokemon were privileged with. I'm gonna go down to Shadow Darmanitan, which is, we're now moving to the section of why some catch tanks just don't work, or may have lots of problems. Shadow Darmanitan has excellent stats. 316 attack, 233 HP, 95 defense. We're really thinking that this is like the ideal sponging Pokemon. And before someone corrects me, I've adjusted the attack and the defense base stats with the shadow buff. So this is 20% higher than the base attack, and this is 20% lower than the base defense. So this is all accounted for. The major drawback is its overheat takes way too long to cast, and its damage is not worth the time it takes for it to cast. The inconsistency of the catch tank swap is a direct result of the 8 tick overheat. The reason why is in terms of breakpoints. If overheat takes 8 ticks to cast, it is slower than lots of other charge moves in the game that could threaten the back-to-back KO on Darmanitan. I'm sure some of you have dealt with this before. It is slower than Earthquake, slower than Earth Power, slower than Scorching Sands, slower than a lot of things that could 2-hit KO the Darmanitan. So this increases its inconsistency. Consistency, not enough base damage to make up. Slow swap. Darmanitan's matchups are not necessarily the best either. Whereas Necrozma Dustmane could probably tank, an Earthquake or something. Darmanitan, being a fire type, has to be very careful with what it tanks in order to deal out damage. There aren't a lot of powerful steel type moves for it to catch tank, and there aren't really a lot of powerful like ice type moves it can catch tank. And if you're looking toward water or ground, a lot of them would probably just 2-shot Darmanitan. So it's actually too fragile. Last but not least, Dialga Origin. This is a reverse case of Darmanitan. Dialga Origin has some middle-of-the-pack stats, a little bit too high of a defense that we want, but it's armed with a very powerful charge move, fast AD, and good damage. So, middle-of-the-pack stats. Best or worst? Great, powerful charge move. For time. The major drawback for Dialga Origin is its high defense and its typing. It's a Steel Dragon type, which means it tanks super effective damage from Earthquake or Focus Blast. However, not a lot of Dragon type Pokemon really use Focus Blast and Earthquake, so as a result, there's a mismatch. It wants to be taking moves like Earthquake and Focus Blast inside the catch tank swap, but the Pokemon encounters don't learn that. As a result, it's in this weird situation where matchups are not favored. So, here are a lot of these notes. These are just like specific breakdowns for how to evaluate catch tanks, right? I'm hoping that with this walkthrough, you guys get a little bit of context into how some people pick their catch tanks, what makes them really good. I hope that this video has taught you guys a lot. If you have any feedback or any kind of questions or confusions, please let me know. Or if you want to see longer, more in-depth videos like this in the future, please leave a comment. Until next time, I'll see you guys in the next short mechanic video. See ya.